Namaskar. Welcome to this session. Today we are embarking upon the next Siddhi that gets mentioned in Yoga Sutras. It is 3.18. The Siddhi is of the nature of Purva Jaati jnanam. That is knowledge about previous lives. All the Hindus know that there is life after life, life after life after life, and there has been life before life, life before and before and before life. So we all had previous lives and we will be having lives hereafter. So this is known to the Astikas. Astikas means those who believe in certain tenets which the Vedic philosophy has given, and those tenets are such as we are immortals, we are birthless, we are deathless, we have incarnations after incarnations, there is Karma Siddhanta. So they believe in Karma Siddhanta, they accept Karma Siddhanta, they accept Punarjanma. So the thing is that we all have idea that we had Purva Janma. But then there is no jnana of Purva Janma. We do not know where were we and what were we, what did we do, who were we in our previous lives. And the knowledge about that is Purva Jaati jnanam. So obviously it is a Siddhi, because it doesn't happen naturally. It is not there for all of us. It is not there for average human beings, and therefore it is a Siddhi. So Patanjali comments as samskaras sakshatkaranat purva jati jnanam. So it implies samskara sakshatkar by samyama on samskaras. There will be Purva Jati Jnanam. So Samyama on samskaras, which is rendered as subliminal impressions, there would be Purva Jati Jnanam, and of course it is samskara sakshatkaranat. So sakshatkara is something that happens by samadhi process. That means by samyama process. Therefore the sutra would also mean that by samyama on samskaras there will be purva jati jnanam, knowledge about one's previous life. And most of the Astikas have this kind of inquisitiveness as to what must be our previous life. Who were we? Where were we? What were we? And therefore many people are inclined to go for past regressions. Many of them try to fall at the feet of Swamis and Maharajas and Devarshis and try to understand about one's past life. But how this knowledge can happen has been given a kind of scientific basis by Patanjali in this sutra. And then it would be a shastra through which one would be knowing as to where were we in our previous life, where did we take birth in our previous incarnation, what kind of birth was there to us, what class of birth was there, what was our life in previous life, What were the pains and pleasures of the previous life, the delights and sorrows of previous life, the karma of the previous life, what did we do, what we did not do, what were the vices and virtues in our previous life. So that is the matter, that's the matter where one has some inquisitiveness. If I am experiencing something in this life which was unexpected, there must be something connected with our past life, and therefore there is inquisitiveness as to what did we do in our past life to be getting what we are getting. So that is being now demystified by the sutra here. The present life, the samprat janma, the present life and the present jnanam has lot of connectivity with the purva janma. As a matter of fact, the source of what we are today, where we are today, why are we like this today, the roots of it is definitely in the past life according to Karma Siddhanta. The Purva Karma, Purva Janma, Purva Jivanam is basis for what we are today. So the roots are to be traced in our previous life or previous lives. Like a tree has roots which goes underground and spreads underground, our life also has roots in our past life, last life, previous life and previous lives. This is what the Karma Siddhanta tells us about, and we did consider about this while we are dealing with the Karma Siddhanta in the Sadhana Pada, the second chapter. But if, in case of a tree, if you dig the ground, you will see the roots. But how will we see our roots, which go to past life and which go to past lives? Purva Janma and Purva Jivanam. The roots do go there, but then how can we see them? And this is the sutra which tells us how that can be sighted. Like you dig the ground and you see the roots of the tree. So similarly, the roots of our present life can be traced, can be seen, can be felt, can be understood, can be revealed, can be realized by a process that is called samskaras sakshatkara. So the first sutra, the first term of the sutra, samskaras sakshatkara, should be understood akin to an act such as digging the ground at the root of the tree, at the root of the trunk. When you dig the ground there, you see that the roots are spreading far and wide, extending far and wide. So that's the logicality in the sutra here. So that's a first kind of basic disillusionment that we get about that the roots of the present life can be traced, and there are roots to the present life in our past life, extending to our past life and past lives, past incarnation and past incarnations. Now, at the outset, it is important to understand the difference between samskara and vasana, because for a layman, in a common man's parlance, these are synonyms. Samskaras are vasanas and vasanas are samskaras. And we should understand it doesn't mean that the vasana has a negative connotation and samskar doesn't have. There are Shubha samskars and Ashubha samskars. There are Shubha vasanas and Ashubha vasanas. There are desirable vasanas and undesirable vasanas. There are desirable samskars and undesirable samskars. So samskars and vasanas are not synonymous. So basically we have this in our psyche and consciousness. We have some Shubha Vasanas and Ashubha Vasanas. We have Shubha Samskars and we have Ashubha Samskars. So the Vasanas manifest in our present life, and they have roots in our past life or in our past lives. So Vasanas in one sense are engendered by samskars. As are the samskars, so are the Vasanas. So it should be understood that the samskara and vasana are not synonymous connotations or words. The vasanas are generated samskaranurupa. As are samskars, so are vasanas. That means it tells us that samskars are not vasanas by themselves, but as are samskars, so are vasanas. Vasanas manifest in our life. Vasanas manifest in our present life, and they have roots in samskars. So samskars are karaka, vasanas are karya rupa. Samskars are causal and vasanas are effectual. So therefore the maxim, as are the samskars, so are the vasanas, as are the vasanas, so are the activities, and as are the activities, so are the fruits and consequences and results. So when samskars become visible, they are vasanas. They manifest in some form what is called tendencies. So samskars are agochara and vasanas become gochara. So manifestation thereof, that is from samskars, become vasanas. They are called vasanas. Anyway, there are two classes, good samskars and bad samskars, evil samskars and virtuous samskars, or meritorious samskars are unmeritorious samskars, vicious samskars are or virtuous samskars. So the samskars are good as well as bad. So the samskars are described as Papa Punya samskars, Shubha Shubha samskars, Dharma Dharma samskars, Pravrutti Nivrutti Dharma samskars, Asuri Daivi samskars. So these are the positive aspects of samskars, and negative aspects of samskars are described in Adhyatma. Papa samskars, Punya samskars, Shubha samskars, Ashubha samskars. Shubha, Ashubha means auspicious, inauspicious. Papa means wise, Punya means virtue. So there are vicious samskars and virtuous samskars, there are auspicious samskars and there are inauspicious samskars, there are noble samskars and there are ignoble samskars. There are dharma samskars and adharma samskars. There are pravrutti rupa samskars and nivrutti rupa samskars, which decide on our pravrittis and nivruttis, the do's and don'ts, inclinations and disinclinations, or asuri samskars and daivi samskars. Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter beautifully classifies between Daiva Asura Sampatti Vibhaga Yoga, which means Daiva Asura Samskara Vibhaga Yoga. So one should look into the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and understand the set of samskars which are called Daivi samskaras, and set of samskaras which are called as Asuri samskar, that is godly samskaras and demonic samskaras. So let's try to understand little scientificality in what we are discussing. The samskaras are like molds, and the life is cast out of it. Our manifest life in the form of virtuosity, viciousness, auspiciousness or inauspiciousness, nobility or ignobility. So they are casts from the molds. So we know something about cast and mold. The mold gives shape and form to cast. So our present life is a cast, and our previous life and lives are molds. They have molded our present life. Our previous life has molded present life, and therefore previous life and previous lives are molds, and present life is cast out of it. And in the Karma Siddhanta that we went through earlier in the second chapter, told us that the last moment of our present life will create a mold for our next life. So also it happened that the last moment in our previous life, immediately preceding life, last birth, the last moment of the last birth decided on the caste of our present life, the style of our present life, the form of our present life, the salient features of our present life. So, whatever is our present life, that was cast on the mold of the previous life, which was decided at the last moment of our previous life. So therefore Antima Kalina Smriti has so much importance in Adhyatma. And those who are familiar with the Adhyatmic precepts are aware of this. Antima Kalina Smriti. And that last moment memory is some of our activities in present life. So it is not a random memory that comes up at the last moment of our last life or last moment of our this life. It will be based on what we have done in this life or what we did in our previous life. So the Antima Kalina Smriti is some of our activity of the life, the whole life. And therefore we just can't think of reforming our last moment memory, but we will have to reform the entire conduct of our life to have a desirable last moment memory. So to some extent our present life had some kind of root in our previous life. Whatever is our disposition, our vritti, pravrutti, our gravities, it has come from our previous incarnation. So whatever are our natural tendencies, natural inclinations, natural traits, natural gravities, those have come from previous life, and it has not been a gamble of divinity to play with our life. So our last life has given us some gravities for present life, and that is why we are what we are today. So there is a body of karmas which was from our previous life and previous lives, which decided on our present mode of life, conduct of life, purpose of life. and salient features of our present life. So our present vrittis have source in Purva Karma, that is Purva Janma Karma. So the Purvarjit samskaras are manifesting or have manifested today. So that's the relationship between samskaras and the vasanas that we have in our present life. So roots for our vasanas in present life are to be traced in our samskars of the past life. The samskars are created by the karma of the past life, the karmas of the past life and karmas of the past lives. So the Karma Siddhanta has told us about these things. So what our life today is based on our samskars of the past life is 50% of the truth. And what is the other 50% of the truth? Today's vrittis itself are going to create samskar for our next life, our next incarnation. So today we are carrying out certain karmas which are called kriyamana karma. Human being in karma yoni has this advantage. Not only that the past life influences our present life, but our present life can influence our future life, our prospective life, our next life. So that these are the two halves of the Satya. So two Ardha Satya make one complete Satya. That's why we have just now seen what we have seen. Today's karmas are because of the vritti in our last life, and today's vrittis are going to be the parental bodies for our karmas in our next life. So there is a Janaka-Janya relationship. That is important thing to be noted. Janya Janaka Sambandham, the cause and effect relationship. Today's life is effect of our previous life, and today's life is going to be the cause of our next life. So not only our present life is effect of previous life activities, but present life is also going to be cause of our future life and future life activities. So that's a Karaka Janaka Sambandham, Janya Janaka Sambandham, the cause and effect relationship. So that is what we have to understand between the samskars and vrittis, potentiality and actuality. So our karma and vritti have some mutual relationship. The vritti and karma, the swabhava and karma have a relationship. And many times it is felt by a layman in common man's parlance that swabhava is something for which there is no remedy. So this is what common man believes, that swabhava has no remedy. You cannot change the swabhava. But in Adhyatma, the swabhava has another connotation of which common man is not aware. Swabhavam Adhyatmam Uchyate is what Bhagavad Gita tells us in the 8th chapter. Swabhava Adhyatmam Uchyate. Our Adhyatma Rupam is our swabhava, and not as loosely rendered as our nature is our swabhava and our nature has no remedy. We are absolutely helpless against our own natures. Nothing can be done to our nature. This is what the common man believes. And therefore in vernacular there is an expression to the effect that Swabhava has no remedy. And that is why layman refers to something as my prakriti, my nature. Now that is not actually nature. It is a structure on your tendencies. It is structure based on your previous life and previous life activities. So that's a shallow perspective which layman takes. While Adhyatma tells us Swabhavam Adhyatma Uchyate. Swabhavam. Swa. What is Swa? That is the subjectivistic entity. Otherwise, Swabhava means nature, but Swabhava means manifestation of one's own entity. So Adhyatma tells us that Swabhava is the Adhyatmam. Anyway, with respect to man, the vernacular one more vernacular expression is Vyakti, or as many Prakritis. And that is why common man's expression is to this effect. As many people, so many tendencies. As many Prakritis, as many Vyaktis, so many Prakritis. Or as many Prakritis, so many Vyaktis. But precisely that is not the case. It is as many Vyaktis, so many Vikrutis. So this is what Adhyatma gives us, a kind of illumination. So the relationship is not between Vyakti and Prakriti, that as many Vyaktis, so many Prakritis, but as many Vyaktis, so many Vikrutis. That is more precise condition. Because the Prakriti in all of us is identical. In the sense, metaphysically, the 24 principles of Prakriti are identical in you and me. But there is no comparison between your nature and my nature. But the material of it, which is said to be 24 principles of Prakriti, which we did count while we were dealing with metaphysics of Prakriti, that there are 24 principles of Prakriti. So the 24 principles in you and 24 principles in me are common. Nobody is with just 23 principles and somebody with 22 principles and somebody with 21 principles and somebody with 24 principles. The 24 principles are there invariably, without exception, in all of us. And then there is, of course, the 25th principle in all of us. No one is bereft of 25th principle, the Purusha. So also no one is bereft of 26th principle, which is Ishvara. So the basic components of our existence is 24 principles of Prakriti plus 25th principle of Purusha plus 26th principle of Ishvara. No one is impaired in these principles. No one is with 23 principles of Prakriti or 22 principles of Prakriti. Everyone is with all the 24 principles of Prakriti. No one is impaired of not having 25th principle in oneself. No one is impaired of not having 26th principle of Ishvara within oneself. All of us have these principles. But then what is the difference? And why is the difference? It is not Prakriti Bheda, it is Vikruti Bheda. The mutations thereof in 24 principles, their combinations, their constitution, there is difference. How the 24 principles are constituted in me and how they are constituted in you, there is a difference. So that is a difference in Vikruti and not Prakriti. And precisely therefore, it is not Prakriti Bheda in all of us, it is Vikruti Bheda in all of us. No one is identical because of Vikruti Bheda. However, the Prakriti Bheda is not there, all of us have the same Prakriti. So, it is because of our different karmic backgrounds. What does it mean? Karmic background means our past life activities, past life experiences, past life gravities working on us. These gravities are differently working. So, that is why there is the Swabhava Vaishishtyam, Swabhava Vaichitriyam. However, the Swa is common in all of us. The worldly intelligence, mundane intelligence, that intelligence which is soaked and got deep into the mire of mundanity cannot really understand what is Swa. And there is a lot of misunderstanding about Swa. It is not only that there is a lack of understanding or lack of comprehension, but what actually is that there is a lot of misunderstanding about Swa. And that's why Adhyatma says go in search of oneself. That is, go in search of Swa and then go in search of self. So the word Swa in philosophy has one meaning and Swa in common man's parlance has another meaning. The Swa has its reference to subjectivistic entity. Well, let me give you a very popular example here about Swa. Vernacular people have expressions such as, I do something for Swanta Sukhaya. Now if you put a question to that person, what is the Sukha? What is the delight for which you are working? So he says, I do for myself, I do for my own delight. And when something is done for one's own delight, it is said to be Swanta Sukhaya. But that is precisely not Swanta Sukhaya, but that is Swa Sukhaya. If you are doing for your own pleasure, then that is actually Swa Sukham, not Swanta Sukham. Swanta Sukham has a mysterious dimension which common man doesn't consider. It is Swa Anta Sukhaya. That means end of your Swa. Something when it is done for something that is after your oneself, into inverted commas. If you do something for the delight of something which is beyond, which is after and beyond oneself, that oneself into inverted comma, that is Swanta Sukhaya. The Swa must have Anta. Swa has Anta. The Swa has an end. Empirically, the pronoun I has an end. So, Swanta Sukhaya, doing something for Swanta Sukhaya, it could be music, it could be literature, it could be poetry, it could be some writings, it could be some readings, it could be some music, playing the music, singing the music, or carrying out certain readings in life. It is not Swanta Sukhaya, it is Sva Sukhaya. Because you get delight by you pursuing your music, by you pursuing your readings, by you pursuing your poetry. So it is Sva Sukhaya and not Swanta Sukhaya. What is Swanta? It is end of Swa. Swa Anta is Swanta. So therefore the Swa has a metaphysical connotation, metaphysical dimension, and that core I-ness, the core I-ness doesn't have delimitations by way of caste, class, creed, gender, status, age, stage, condition, etc., etc. So it is in the realm of, or in the domain of metaphysics. The Swa or the I is also in the domain of metaphysics, and actually it is in the domain of metaphysics, but we have brought it to the domain of our psyche and consciousness. So end of Swa is your core principle of consciousness, which is avikari, which is aparinami, which is atma, which is amara, which is amrutyu, ajanma, amara, amruta. It has no likes and dislikes. It has no loves and loaths. It has no pains and pleasures. It has no kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam, gnyatrutvam. That is the core subjective entity or core of subjective entity. Now this is hardly considered by a materialistic person. Materialist person will always say, I like this, I don't like this, there is nothing beyond my likes and dislikes. Then that pronoun I also has caste, class, creed, genetic background, genealogical background. That pronoun I has age and sex, condition and state, etc., etc. But in Adhyatma, Paramartha, that core aspect of I, pronoun I, which just becomes a principle of I, that doesn't have sukha dukkha, doesn't have thirst and hunger, doesn't have likes and dislikes, doesn't have loves and loaths, doesn't have kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam, gnyatrutvam. So Swanta Sukhaya is a paramarthic concept and not a worldly concept. However, the worldly people are used to saying something, it is Swanta Sukhaya. Now this Swanta condition is only experienced in intuitive mysterious state of Samadhi or Yoga Avastha. And in that Yoga Avastha, one is not inclined to be a literator, nor a poet, a musician, or nor whatever. So all these things fall apart in the zone of Swanta, but all come within the zone of Swa. They are very much in the Swa, but they are not in Swanta. Where the Swa has ended, they are not there. So common man cannot really have anything of this domain which is Swanta Sukhaya, because there is no Sukha Dukkha for Swanta. Anyway, so it's an intuitive mystic state, the Swa. And therefore Adhyatma tells us, as it comes in Bhagavad Gita, Uddharet Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet Atmaivihi Atmano Bandhu Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. So this is the verse that comes in Bhagavad Gita, that you yourself have to uplift yourself. You yourself should never neglect yourself, should not be heedless about yourself. You are your friend and you are your foe. Now what is that? You, which is the friend, and you, that is the foe. So the point is, the I that is explored in Adhyatma and Paramartha is totally different than in the empirical plane, because everyone has the pronoun I. Nobody says I don't know me. So on one hand we think that we know ourselves. On the other hand, when you are a little spiritual seeker, you realize that you do not know yourself, and therefore you have to explore yourself, you have to discover yourself. What is called as self-discovery. Mundane, materialistic person doesn't have this botheration at all, doesn't bother about self-exploration, but spiritually inclined person go for this. So anyway, this Swabhava, we were trying to understand the word, the Swabhava, and that's why we went into whatever we discussed so far. And then to be more closer to one's essence or essential form, Adhyatma prescribes Satsanga, Sadhu Sangha, Santa Sangha, Sattva Sangha, Satya Sangha, Dehatraya Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha, Santagatha Sangha, Satpurusha Sangha. So Vyuthana samskaras are to be enfeebled, and then the Nirodha samskaras are to be empowered. So that would be taking us closer to this core consciousness, core of being. While the Vyuthana samskaras would put all those things in complete oblivion, they would complete eclipse all that, and therefore there will be rampant avairagya, anaishwarya, and adharma, ajnana, and of course the asuri pravrutti. You would become demonic by not taking recourse to Adhyatma. So therefore Patanjali also in his text somewhere speaks about Vishaya Nimna samskars, Vishaya Nimna vritti, Vaishayika vrittis, Vasanika vrittis, Prapanchika vrittis, Vyuthana vrittis, Ihavadi vritti, Vyavaharika vritti, Bhogavadi vritti, Jadavadi vritti, Prakrutika vritti, Shadripu vritti, Ahamtva mamatva, Klesha, Svabhimana, Durabhimana, likes and dislikes, inclinations and disinclinations, the raga and dvesha, priya vastu, the things liked and certain things disliked, and all these things play havoc in our life. So also what plays havoc in our life is jata, pata, varna, vansha, linga, bhasha, dharma. They all play havoc. There is a cacophony of all this, and therefore we are away from our core consciousness, the core principle of psychic consciousness. There is a lot of commotion, chaos, and ahamtva and mamatva plays a havoc in our life. I-ness and mine-ness. It creates havoc in our lives, it creates pseudo thirsts and hungers. So many kinds of thirsts and so many kinds of hungers are there. So many needs and desires are there. And of course there is a lot of tumult within one's consciousness. And all this is not going to subside until you take recourse to sleep, or unless you are taken to a dormant state or sushupti avastha. Until that time they will just make a battlefield of your mind. Thank God that we have a state of sleep coming every day our way, so that this tumult is kept at bay for a short while. That is what is our life. That is what is called as jnanam. So try to understand what is this jnanam. And sometimes the feeling comes, oh, enough of this prapancha, enough of this samsara. So with little touch of spirituality in life, one comes to get the feeling that, oh, enough of this mundanity, enough of this prapancha, enough of this samsara. I want shantata, I want swasthata, I want to be in myself, I want to be with myself, I want to be in myself. So that is what the Paramartha, casting a gravity on us, makes a transformation in us. We become Atma Abhimukha, we become self-worldly. And then we do so many things such as Satsanga, Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha. We do Puja Patha, we do Deva Dharma, we do Deva Darshana, we do Tirthatana, we go for Atmarati, we go for Atma Abhimukhi, we do the Japajaptya, we go for yoga. And by yoga we become swastha. This is a marvelous word that comes in vernacular. The best sign of health is called swastha, to be in one's own self. That is indeed a Daivi Bhava. That is indeed a very sattvic nature of our consciousness. All the karmas are kept at bay, and then we develop a feature in us, character in us, which is called character with Shad Sampattis: Shamadama, Titiksha, Uparati, Jnana Vairagya, Shanti Samadhan. And these are all Daivi Sampadas, as I said in the beginning. The 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita tells us about it. So the Yoga Dharma gives us Daivi Sampada. Then we are in Shubha Vritti, Shubha Samskar, Shubha Dharma, Shubha Karma. So also Prapancho Upashama. And then Shadripus eclipsed. So it's a marvelous state that emanates, and that is because of yoga, and that is because of we go close to our core consciousness, and the core consciousness is absolutely Daivi, godly, and the Bhogavada, Ihavada, Jadavada, Prayojanavada, they all get vaporized. That's the marvel of this yoga and Adhyatmavada. So that is the Swa. For us to understand what is Swabhava, so that we will be little different than layman's understanding of Swabhava. And that's why we made an attempt to understand this Swa according to Adhyatma. Swabhava Adhyatma Muchyate. And that's why the Adhyatma was cited in Swabhava. Not Swabhava, but Swabhava. Anyway, that should be enough for the time being. Let's proceed further in our next session. So, Namaskar all of you.